IST.
Thanks for staying with us on DT India. You're watching our special broadcast, India's Budget 2024, and I'm Sakal Bhatt. The budget presented by the Modi government in third consecutive election win has struck big balance between providing taxpayer relief and also implementing measures to uphold basic fiscal responsibility. So on the broadcast, we will be joined by a very high-powered panel by CII, or the Confederation of Indian Industry, to underscore how this year's budget has showcased a crucial commitment to boost education, employment, skill building capacity, young India, manufacturing sector, etc. So let's begin. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the budget for the year 2024-25. This was her 7th straight presentation of the Union budget. And this is also the first budget during Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government's 3rd term. Presenting the budget in the lower house, the Finance Minister said that people of India have reinforced their faith in the government led by Prime Minister Modi and re-elected it for the 3rd term. The Finance Minister said that despite global turmoil, India's economic growth continues to shine and will remain so in years ahead.
India's economic growth continues to be the shining exception and will remain so in the years ahead. India's inflation continues to be low, stable, and moving towards the 4% target. Core inflation, that is non-food and non-fuel, currently is 3.1%. Steps are being taken to ensure supplies of perishable goods reach markets adequately.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the Union Budget 2024-25 presented by the Union Minister for Finance Nirmala Sitharaman in Lok Sabha today. Prime Minister said that the budget will empower the poor through poverty alleviation schemes.
देश में गरीबी समाप्त हो, गरीब का सशक्तिकरण हो, इस दिशा में भी आज के बजट में प्रमुख घोषणाएं की गई है। गरीबों के लिए 3 करोड़ नए घर बनाना तय हुआ है। जनजातीय उन्नत ग्राम अभियान सैचुरेशन अप्रोच के साथ 5 करोड़ आदिवासी परिवारों को मूलभूत सुविधाओं से जोड़ा जाएगा। इसके अलावा ग्राम सड़क योजना 25,000 नए ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों को ऑल वेदर रोड से जोड़ेगी। इसका लाभ देश के सभी राज्यों के दूर-दराज गांवों को मिलेगा।
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced that the Prime Minister's package of 5 schemes and initiatives to facilitate employment, skilling and other opportunities for 4.1 crore youth over a 5-year period with a central outlay of 2 lakh crore rupees. And apart from this, she also announced the climate finance taxonomy measures and a new tribal welfare scheme.
The Union Budget 2024-25 has several new key initiatives that propel India towards becoming the 3rd largest economy of the world, as well as ensuring all-round prosperity. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman outlined some key next-generation reforms for facilitating employment opportunities and sustaining high growth. To incentivize states for faster implementation of reforms, 50-year interest-free loans for states have been extended. 10 lakh crore rupees have been allotted to cater to the housing needs of 1 crore urban poor. Transparent rental housing markets have also been proposed. A national cooperation policy for the cooperative sector has been proposed for fostering rural economy growth. Scheme for skilling 20 lakh youth over 5 years has been announced. 1,000 industrial training institutes will be upgraded. 3 lakh crore rupees have been allocated for schemes benefiting women and girls. Significant relief has been given to the MSME sector. Credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs in the manufacturing sector has been announced with a guarantee cover of up to 100 crore rupees. A new assessment model for MSME credit has been proposed. E-commerce export hubs will be made operational in public-private partnership mode. Novel internship opportunities in 500 top companies has been announced for 1 crore youth over a 5-year period. Under this, an internship allowance of 5,000 rupees per month along with a one-time assistance of 6,000 rupees will be provided. Companies will bear the training cost and 10% of the internship cost from their CSR funds. For formalization of employment, the first-time employees will get 15,000 rupees as 1 month's salary in 3 installments. The eligibility limit will be a salary of up to 1 lakh rupees per month. Apart from this, the government also plans to incentivize employer and employee for an EPFO contribution in the first 4 years of employment. An integrated technology platform has also been proposed for improving the outcomes under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. NPS Vatsalya scheme has been announced. It's a financial plan for contribution by parents and guardians for the welfare of their minors. In the field of agriculture, funding will be provided in challenge mode for agricultural research, including to the private sector. New 109 high-yielding and climate-resilient varieties of 32 field and horticulture crops will be released for cultivation by farmers. In the next 2 years, 1 crore farmers across India will be initiated into natural farming. Private sector-driven research and innovation at commercial scale will be provided with a financing pool of 1 lakh crore rupees. For developing space economy, a venture capital fund of 1,000 crore rupees will also be set up. Further, land records in both rural and urban areas will be digitized with GIS mapping. For achieving energy security, a conducive tax structure for climate finance would be provided. Research and development of small and modular nuclear reactors in PPP mode has also been proposed. And more than 100 branches of the India Post Payment Bank will be set up in the Northeast region. Lastly, Finance Minister Sitharaman announced a new scheme for tribal welfare, the Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. This will cover 63,000 villages, benefiting some 5 crore tribal people. Bureau Report, DD India.
So has this budget been in line or in tandem with the industry's expectations? We are very glad to be joined by Mr. R. Mukunandan. He's Vice President, CII and Managing Director and CEO of Tata Chemicals Limited. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And also let me introduce and thanks for joining us, our guest in the studio, Mr. Deepak Shetty, Chairman, CII Manufacturing Excellence Council, and also he's the CEO and MD of JCB India Limited. Such a pleasure talking to you. I would like to start with you now. Just an overview, has this been pretty much in line with the expectations by the industry, especially when there was a lot of thrust on MSMEs and job creation? What is new in this budget? And I know the industry has given it a thumbs up, but if you could just elaborate on those lines.
I want to congratulate first the Honorable Finance Minister for a very comprehensive budget, but with fiscal prudence. What is very important to note is we have been talking about supporting the manufacturing sector. The 2 key elements of the manufacturing sector or the manufacturing industry are MSME sector and availability of skill. I think these are the 2 key highlights that there is an impetus given to support the MSME sector and also to bridge the gap of availability of skill. Now, as we further grow on the economic side, it would be very important that along with the services sector as it has supported in the past, the manufacturing sector also grows. One of the important points of the budget is also this focus on rural economy.
Yes.
The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana 4.0, 25,000 habitats being touched, I think is going to create a huge multiplier effect on the rural economy, which will be further supported by the loan which has been offered to the state governments. I'm sure part of this loan will be utilized to build the rural infrastructure. So in nutshell, focus on MSME, skill development, support of manufacturing industry, and sprucing up the rural economy are the 3 highlights, yes, I would say.
That manufacturing part, I would like to have Mr. Mukunandan's reaction on that, sir. Is this enough to unlock the potential and, you know, this vision of making India a manufacturing hub, not domestically, but globally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the two factors of production of manufacturing which impact competitiveness, one of them is logistics. So, which I think the finance minister is very clearly focused on continued thrust on infrastructure. I think with infrastructure, almost the 6% factor cost let me say disadvantage which India has, that has almost diminished now, and it has come down to almost being at par. And we need to continue this investment going forward if we are to continue the momentum in terms of sort of reducing this logistic cost to world class levels. The second factor cost, which is very critical, is the cost of energy. And I think this whole thrust which has come in terms of not just energy, but also the transition to green energy, which is very competitive, both in terms of renewable and also R&D investments in terms of SMR, and also the focus on critical minerals, which are very critical for the transition to green economy. I think this will be extremely critical. See, the issue is that when you want to plug ourselves into the global supply chain, not just make for India, I think the key issue always is, are you in sync with the world in terms of the green credentials? I think continued long-term focus on being green, also making sure that we are competitive, I think is a very welcome move.
Okay. That also includes, sir, a bit on this also, strengthening the e-vehicle ecosystem. And you spoke about promoting green growth. Mr. Mukunandan, your thoughts on it, because you have to support manufacturing at the same time, Mr. Mukunandan, the charging infrastructure also when we talk about green growth. Is there enough for that?
See, I think in terms of the electric vehicle, I think the government policies which are already in place, I think are doing the whole element of green transition. They are enabling it. If you look at also the other elements which government has played into, I think this focus on CNG vehicle, which is more green than having the liquid fuel, also the focus on biofuel, flex fuel. I think the whole array of solutions are needed. And I think the government is approaching it in a broad spectrum of solutions. As far as the electrification is concerned, I think the focus on charging station, I think that is mostly currently focus is more on urban centers. On the highways, we still will have, while some of the highways have green charging infrastructure, other highways, a lot needs to be done. I think we need to continue the effort and focus on making sure the infrastructure comes up. It will take time, but I think we are doing the right thing in terms of focusing on transition, both mobility as well as energy transition in a very holistic manner, looking at all the elements and all the options available to us.
All right, sir, please stay with us. Let me quickly go and welcome Mr. Charanjit. I beg your pardon, Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII. Mr. Banerjee, it's always such a pleasure talking to you. Welcome to DD India. So your thoughts, expectations list, all covered?
I would think that it's been a very pragmatic budget, and thank you very much for having me again on your show. One of the things which I really want to particularly mention is about the health of the economy, which really came out very strongly in the budget. So I think it was good to note that we have the fiscal deficit for FY25. That's the estimates of 4.9. Which is compared, as you know, to 5.1, which was announced in the interim budget, and 5.8 in the 23-24. So in the RE. Now this is fundamentally a very strong story. And also, if you really look at the government's commitment to the glide path on the fiscal, that is again a very important. So that's one thing which is noticeable in the budget. Then one of the things that we have been talking about from the beginning, much before the budget, is how do we create an ecosystem of employment generation and also human capacity development. So which is skilling. So the focus of the budget on that is just outstanding, and therefore and you talked a little earlier about manufacturing. That these are foundations for strong manufacturing growth also in the country.
A quick one, since you talked about skill development and employment generation, the next generation reforms, do you think, is also one of the big takeaways in the out-of-the-box vision, envisioned in this budget for the young India?
Absolutely so, because I would have mentioned about it. What we have spoken in your shows earlier
Yes.
is that how do we involve the states of India? The states of India are going to play a very important role as we go along towards a developed and Viksit Bharat. Now, in that context, the way we see that the second generation reforms have been ushered in through the states is extremely important. The incentivization of the states to see how, that they are that they would be incentivized if they go on on the process of reforms is a very, very important step. So bringing in the states and going forward with the reforms. And when you talk about changes, today India has come down on a very is very competitive given the tax rates, corporate tax rate, so to say. But therefore, now to really talk more and more about areas like decriminalization, areas like less litigation, making tax those and this overhaul of the tax system in the next 6 months, the focus on GST, all of that which was mentioned is just outstanding roadmap as we move ahead.
All right. Mr. Banerjee and Mr. Mukundan, I would request you to stay with us and also Mr. Shetty, because we are getting some reactions, and after that we will continue with our discussion in terms of decoding various aspects. Now, speaking on the budget highlights, Arvind Virmani, Niti Aayog member, has said that the budget 2024-25 is an all-inclusive with lots of nudges, pushes and many things to benefit all sectors of the country and the population. In fact, he adds that job skills and connecting youth is the key part of this budget.
So, connecting job skills with employment is the key part of this budget. And there are a whole bunch of programs, there are so many and very important, which I can't even remember to list, but whether it's in MSMEs, creating learning and skilling. So skilling happens both by learning by doing and by people training. So there are a number of incentives, nudges, pushes, financing funds to make sure that youth, older people get the skills which are needed for the job. So I would say that is the one big message.
In fact, FICCI has also welcomed the union budget, lauding initiatives launched for manufacturing sector, and has said that it will generate many employment opportunities.
There is budget which is in continuity. The Honorable Finance Minister has laid this roadmap a few years ago, and she's walking down that roadmap. It gives a lot of focus on employment creation, on skilling, on rural infrastructure, on low-cost housing. It's a budget in the positive direction. There is also a lot of focus on ease of doing business and, knocking out the irritants, both for trade, industry and commerce.
It's a budget which is growth-oriented. With the tax adjustment alone, putting 17,500 rupees in the hands of the middle-income people will definitely be a growth orientation and an acknowledgement of the fact that they are feeling the pain of inflation. So first off, I think it's a good budget. It's a comprehensive budget because it covers every point, from agri to youth to women and children to research and development, of course, infrastructure.
The budget has set up the roadmap for Viksit Bharat. The Finance Minister has covered many facets, including the job and job creation, both in Yuva Shakti, Nari Shakti. We talked about agriculture, we talked about manufacturing, we talked about also capex spending on infrastructure. And please do keep in mind that the fiscal prudence has been kept extremely well. So I would say the budget has set up a path for a growth roadmap. In the last few years, we have seen the PLI schemes in many manufacturing sectors, especially the electronic, which can take boost, and especially when the world is going to a different manufacturing setup base, India becomes a right choice, and I think government is really promoting that to take place.
So this is clearly a growth-oriented budget where there is a focus on continuity, inclusivity, and all this while maintaining fiscal discipline. So the focus on manufacturing is praiseworthy because that's a sector which is very, very important for India's growth. In that regard, I think steps to enhance domestic manufacturing and export competitiveness is really praiseworthy.
I think it's a blueprint at Viksit Bharat. It is because it's a comprehensive budget. It talks about immediate or short-term issues and also brings out a long-term roadmap on a whole lot of areas. So I think it's a very comprehensive, well-balanced budget.
Okay, comprehensive and well-balanced budget is the kind of reactions that are trickling in from all industry verticals. In fact, we continue to have Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director CII, and also Mr. R. Mukundandan, Vice President CII, and in my studio, Mr. Deepak Shetty, Chairman CII, Manufacturing Excellence. Mr. Mukundan, I would like to have a quick reaction from you on the much talked about tax adjustments, so to say. How do you see this tax adjustments, particularly for the middle class, in terms of, containing the inflation impact? Sir, I think you have muted your...
Sorry, thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
So, really, I think government has been on this path of shifting to the new tax regime for the direct income tax for individuals. And I think that's a simplified version and simple version to administer. And I think in that light, the government has moved forward with ensuring that that is more competitive. That's what they did last time. This time they've added more slabs and have also given extra relief in terms of the set-off, and that would probably, as the minister said, finance minister said, that's going to give about 17,500 in the hands of the taxpayers.
Yeah.
More importantly, I think they've also done a lot of, they've committed to looking at direct tax code and revamping and coming with more simplified tax code in about 6 months' time. It's a very welcome move. Also, a reduction of corporate tax for foreign owned companies to 35%. On top of that, also the issue of capital gain tax, that has been one of the key asks from CII into simplification of that. I think the move to simplify and move it to more uniform code is a welcome move from us in CII.
Okay. Mr. Shetty, just to continue with that corporate tax rates and incentives, there were also demands of broader PLI schemes to expand across various sectors. Do you see that happening?
I think PLI we have seen the salutary effect of the PLI schemes, how they have benefited, particularly when you see the electronic sector. And that is why the other sectors, for example, I represent the construction equipment industry. There's construction equipment industry in India today is the third largest in the world. But we still have a lot of imports which are taking place. I think the PLI scheme will further help, particularly incentivizing the MSME sector and creating not only the opportunity for ecosystem in India for the domestic market, but also for the export market. But probably everything can't be covered only as a part of the budget. So I'm sure the Honorable Government will look at some of these initiatives, because PLI certainly have benefited.
Okay, let me quickly go once again to CII Director General. MSME budget expectations wish list also talked about, sir, bridging the credit gap and other financing issues when it comes to micro, small and medium enterprises. How do you see that?
So, the entire focus on MSMEs in the budget has been strong, very good. There was specific mention of easing the financing requirement of the MSMEs, and that was very clearly stated by the finance minister. The other point which we saw was the Mudra loans and the limits being increased from 20 lakhs to 20 lakhs from 10 lakhs for those who have repaid their loan. That's a very important focus. This would really help provide financial support to our small and the mid-sized companies. And Mudra loans require no collateral, which is a very, very critical issue, or guarantor, and it has quite low interest rates. And the public sector banks will develop also, it was mentioned, a new model for credit assessment for financing of the MSMEs. That was again a very important area. And the e-commerce export hub for MSME in a PPP mode. That's again, I would think all in all for the MSME, it was a very, very important focus. Internship, again, in top companies. The new schemes actually, for internship, we announced in that 500 top companies for internship for 5 crores youth and 12 million plus. Over a period of time, many of them will be available to the small and the mid-sized companies too. That's going to be a very, very, very important takeaway.
Mr. Shetty.
Yeah, on the skill development, I think for years together we have been talking about the demographic dividend that India has. I think what the Honorable Minister has done is to show the path, how we can, I would say in a sense, monetize this demographic dividend that we have. How we get more and more young people and train them so that they are ready for the industry. One of the biggest challenges that we face as the industry sometimes is you can recruit people to join your organization, but you need to spend a lot of time and effort to train them. I think this internship, the upgradation of ITIs, all of this will add to the skill development, which will certainly help the industry, but more importantly the MSME sector, as Chandrajit Banerjee rightly said, will help that, and this will be very welcome for the industrial growth.
Okay, let's, before we continue this discussion, let's take some more stories and reactions, and just to further understand. All right, we'll take some reactions in a bit, but staying with our panel, Mukundan sir, I'm coming to you again. How do you see pharma industry really being prioritized in this budget? There was also a talk of the rollback of health cess on critical medical devices, though we are looking at expanding the medical infrastructure in a macro view, but how do you see this particular space, health sector?
I think there was a very clear emphasis on health sector, and I think health for all, I think, has been the theme for the government, and in that the pharmaceutical industry will play a key role. And India is the pharmaceutical factory for the world. And I think in that light, government is doing a lot in terms of improving competitiveness. One of the key elements would also be, over a period of time, some of the active pharma intermediates, which we currently import. We need to sort of make them indigenously produced. And in that direction, I think having a specific scheme to incentivize the industry to API in India will be very, very critical.
Okay, please stay with us, Mr. Shetty and Mr. Banerjee. We are getting some more important news specs now. Ashwini Vaishnav, the Minister of Railways and Information and Broadcasting, has also hailed the budget as creative due to employment-linked incentive schemes. Let's listen.
The last 10 years of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's government have seen a transformative change in our economy. The economy is today resilient. It is on a very strong footing, a very interesting combination of welfare, fiscal prudence, capital investment and investment in manufacturing. All these big levers of economic growth have been simultaneously applied, and today's budget is a continuation of that very solid, very deep thinking process that our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has demonstrated in the last 10 years. This budget focuses on employment generation, on creating more employment opportunities. Allocation of rupees 2 lakh crore has been made for creating new employment opportunities, and very creative schemes like employment linked incentive scheme, like internship scheme, like skilling program, these have been announced in today's budget, and these will go a long way in helping our young citizens get new jobs. This budget also focuses on the middle class, especially on fulfilling the dream of owning a home. This is a very big dream of every middle class family, and today's budget lays out a very detailed scheme for home ownership and for rental housing for the middle class families. The tax structure for middle class families has been simplified, and this is a big improvement in our citizens' lives. The budget also puts its focus on the welfare of our low income families. So 3 crore new PM Awas Yojana houses will be built. This is a transformative change in the lives of our low income families. This budget also puts big focus on our tribal villages. 63,000 villages will be developed on a saturation mode, and these are all tribal majority villages. So in a sense, this entire gamut of welfare and fiscal prudence measures are basically setting up a very strong foundation for economy. The continued focus on capital investment which has created huge amount of jobs, large number of jobs throughout the country, has been continued in this budget. The capex for the entire country is 11,000 crore, which is a very large number. And for railways, Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister, I thank them for allocating 2,62,000 crore rupees for development of railways. Out of this, about 1,08,000 crore rupees is dedicated for safety related items. As we are all aware, for last 10 years, a huge transformation has happened in the railway network. The network which was not which was not a priority for the Congress governments before 2014, is today seeing a transformative change. 31,000 kilometers of new tracks have been constructed. 40,000 plus kilometers of routes have been electrified. New technologies are being introduced. Stations are being rebuilt. Tracks are being renewed. In a way, every aspect of railways is being transformed. So this budget lays the foundation for a very strong and renovated and safe railways.
Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw hailing Budget 2024-25. We continue to be with Mr. Charanjit Banerjee, Director General CII. He stays with us in our studio. Mr. Deepak Shetty, Chairman CII Manufacturing Excellence Council, and also Mr. R. Mukundan, Vice President CII, continues to stay with us. Mr. Shetty, let's do a quick one on the logistics sector. Now, looking at the allocations, do you think this budget has prioritized capital expenditure in prominent infrastructural projects?
No, absolutely. I think there were some doubts that whether the focus on infrastructure development will continue. I think by 3.4% of the GDP being allocated for infrastructure development from the capex point of view, and also if you look at from connecting the rural markets, the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, this is what is going to improve the connect between the farm and the market, and this will certainly contribute to the improvement in the logistics cost. As my friend Mukundan earlier mentioned, one of the logistics costs in India between 12 and 13% has always been a negative factor. So far as the growth of
so there is a fulfillment of logistics.
Yes,
this space
certainly,
which was not really much catered to in the earlier budgets. Would you say?
I would say it has further enhanced it.
Yeah.
The focus certainly, and we have seen the direction that the government has under the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti project. The whole emphasis on bringing down the logistics cost. But yes, and through the 25,000 villages or hamlets or habitats which will connect, I think this is where as you rightly said, the farmer will get better connected to the markets.
Yes, and with macro allocations in the agri sector, Mr. Banerjee, a quick reaction on this as well. You know that point, we have the CII power panel here on our screens. So the distance between the farmer and the market, or the farm and the market, has lessened further, where again, this makes our farmer, our kisan, more empowered. Mr. Banerjee.
Agriculture has been one of the strong focuses, and agriculture and rural economy has been a very strong focus in the budget. So I think that's what important point that really came up was a comprehensive review of the agricultural research setup. And that brings in, focus on raising productivity as well as also developing climate resilient varieties, which is extremely critical. And also that makes us also very strong and independent. And 1 crore of farmers will be initiated into natural farming, which will be supported by certification and branding. So all of this are very, very critical. One of the things that the finance minister also talked about was the farmer producer organization, the cooperatives and the startup for vegetable supply chains, which all will be promoted. And that's one recommendation that we were making for quite some time. And Finance Minister also touched upon a very key point when he was talking about rural focus and rural businesses and connecting the rural sector into more with business enterprises. I think this is a very strong sort of budget, and I want to bring in technology here. Government has said, I mean, that in collaboration with the states, it will facilitate the implementation of the digital public infrastructure, the DPI in agriculture, for coverage of farmers and their land. You know that this is extremely important point. So a lot of coverage on agriculture and the rural economy.
All right, and also the fact that at least 1 crore farmers will be helped in natural farming. Mr. Mukundan, your reaction. We're also talking about at least 109 climate resilient crops. Would you say that in this sector, in agro sector, these are some out of the box parameters that have been, catered to or perhaps, flagged by the government?
I think this is the need of the hour. If you really look at climate change is on us, the finance minister spoke about, a lot of the flood control measures which they're trying to put in many of the states which have been impacted. But if you dive deeper, I think all these measures will go also to sort of make our agriculture climate smart, focusing our agriculture and the future changes which are going to happen and making sure we are highly productive is the right move. India actually has all the agroclimatic regions. We need to produce all kinds of crops. And if we put concerted effort in this, India can become the food factory for the world, and we should ambition no less than that.
Yes, absolutely. That point, food factory, Mr. Shetty, food factory of the world, the fact that we are ranked amongst the world's leading agricultural producers, and we are, so to say, a surplus food surplus economy, but there have been challenges. And, at the end of the day, you're looking at something which impacts the farmer's income directly. Does this budget answer those challenges?
No, absolutely. I think there are various provisions, and particularly bringing technology into the farming process.
Yes.
For long, the agriculture sector has been depending on the rains, depending on the factors which were out of their control.
Right.
I think what the honorable government has done is to bring these elements, to bring science into agriculture, I think has been a very important initiative, and also moving them in the right direction. The whole initiative on natural farming, I think all of this will be very positive for the farmers, particularly the income for the farmers, and the rural economy.
Okay, let's shift our focus from agriculture or agro to technology sector. Mr. Banerjee, your take on technology sector. The CII, if I remember correctly, your expectations list also talked about key reforms where you were looking at streamlining operations and boosting growth towards more tech-savvy future. You were talking about tech startups, and there was this anticipation of rupees 1 trillion deep tech fund. Big numbers there, but have your issues or your wish lists in tech sector been addressed in this budget? Mr. Banerjee.
Absolutely. One of the important things that we have seen in the budget is the establishment of that corpus of 1 lakh crore with 50-year interest-free loan. That came out in the interim budget, and that would provide strong long-term financing and refinancing with long tenure, with very low or nil interest rate, so to say. And the budget announced the mechanism which will be established basically to drive the private sector research on a commercial scale. The other point which is very notable, which touches the tech sector through the startup, is the angel tax abolishment. So that's a very key area that we have seen in the budget coming up. The third, I would think, is the technology for productivity, which is really public investment in digital infrastructure and innovation towards that really takes the economy towards a digitalization which has been initiated by the government. Also, I would give very important credit to the government when it talked that how the states would be incentivized to bring in digitization. Okay. I think that's making the states digitally strong is important. One thing that we keep talking about is data and statistics, and for improving data governance, collection or processing of data, the databases especially, including those established under our Digital India mission. Though all of that will be utilized well with active use of technology tools. So I think all in all, it's a strong focus on technology in the budget that one sees, which will enable digitalization of the economy.
Mr. Mukundan, would you like to come in here in terms of, is there enough in terms of increased investment in cutting edge research for global commercialization? This is what we were expecting in the tech sector, especially in the startup ecosystem.
See, I think you got to go sector by sector. If you look at space research, let's take what the government has done. I think this entire focus of not just doing, giving an impetus for private sector participation in space, also using the space technology for land records. That's like linking the space, Akash and Dharti together. I think they have focused very clearly on that. The second element is when you talk about critical mineral and offshore mining, that's completely new technology. And I think using the seabed nodules to get all the critical minerals which India needs for green transition, again is a terrific move in terms of opening up a completely new sector. So I think you got to look at this technology piece not just from a startup framework, but also from technology which touches people, technology which sort of embraces all elements of resources which are available to us. Then fundamentally the other element is the use of AI and digital. I think India is supply constrained economy in my view. And I think AI and digital are going to play a central role in giving access. For example, take healthcare. We don't have enough doctors. How do we have every citizen of this country access the best medical input they can get? I think that can only come from digital infrastructure and access to AI, which can be a force multiplier to serve our citizens. And the government is taking every step to sort of increase the infrastructure and also enable the use of technology in every sector it can see.
Okay, interesting point there. Mr. Shetty, in space?
Before
and
space,
yes.
I want to also talk about the whole focus on nuclear energy.
Okay.
I think this clean energy from the nuclear side, the whole announcement on modular reactors, the small reactors, if you look at globally, the whole world is now looking at not the large nuclear plants, but the smaller modular reactors. And India can't stay behind. I think it's very heartening that the Honorable Minister has spoken about this, and I'm sure this will not only be an opportunity for India, but I'm sure in the future when we develop our technology on this front, we'll be probably able to offer solutions to the world. So bringing cutting and nuclear technology, as we know, is cutting edge technology. I think it's a very big initiative.
And you want to speak on the space as well, because there was also this talk of greater government expenditure in the space sector and also government stepping in as a customer.
So last few years we have seen the government has progressively ensured that the whole space sector is not limited to the public side, but it is also the involvement of the private side takes place. The private industry is taking place. Various organizations have been created, and we are seeing more involvement of the private sector in the space, and I'm sure the new announcement will further spruce up particularly startups, and we have seen some brilliant work done by startups in the drone space.
Oh, yes.
We have been seeing this, and I'm sure this will further spruce up both innovation and investment in this important sector.
I mean, I'm quite keen to have Mr. Banerjee's reaction on that space sector startup vertical. Mr. Banerjee, now the way space has opened up for India, and India trudging along, being one of the global leaders when it comes to innovations, collaborations, convergences in space sector, and the missions that we have launched recently, making us part of the world, so-called world leaders in this space sector. India is pretty much part of the elite club.
So, this expanding our space economy 5 times in the next 10 years, it's a phenomenal ambition, and it's possible. And this venture capital of 1,000 crores, which will be set up, would indeed boost a large number of our young entrepreneurs, startups to participate. And with the space sector getting opened up and the type of opportunities that lies in India, and India going leaps and bounds, so this would really encourage not only young enterprises or young entrepreneurs, but a large number of startups. You've seen the success in the defense of the startups when many of them having gone global. So this is an area which we throw up for much greater private sector participation, as well as the participation of our younger venture or entrepreneurs.
All right, Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Mukundan, and also Mr. Shetty, I'll request you to please stand by, because I'm going to go live to my colleague Amit Banerjee, who's going to join us for some time to further decode this budget for us and talk about the big takeaways in various sectors under various verticals. Amit, good evening. Over to you.
Hi, good evening, Sakal. In fact, we have been talking about several sectors and, announcements made by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman about various sectors, incentives, new schemes, new methods, which have been new allocations which have been made. But primarily, if you look at the whole budget, the key thrust areas have been job creation, upliftment of the economically backward, then looking at creation of public infrastructure, and also putting India on a track to being the third largest economy of the world, of course, for which a lot of incentives have been extended to improve manufacturing and also kind of improve infrastructure that would make India into an export hub. Now let's take a quick look at some of the key takeaways. Now we have talked a lot about the taxations. We have seen tax incentives being extended to salaried class to ensure that they have more disposable income. Now that is going to translate into more disposable income that would actually fuel the economic growth. Foreign companies have been given, extended tax off so that they have to pay lesser amount of tax. But the key thrust area, of course, has been infrastructure. Viksit Bharat or Developed India is what the current incumbent government is clearly looking at. Now infrastructure, if you look at, about 11 lakh crores have been allocated for capex, capital expenditure, which would go in towards improving infrastructure. Now if you, we just had heard also our railway minister Ashwini Vaishnavji talking about, how railways have been allocated almost 2,62,000 crores, which is one of the largest, allocations after the defense, which again would be going ahead to utilize to improve the entire infrastructure of the country that will enable quick movement of goods, which again is a very, very important aspect as far as the economic growth is concerned. And also looking at the kind of money that has been put in for development of highways, roads. That ministry has also been allocated about 2.52 lakh crores. Now that would also amount to kind of improving the entire road network that would link up export hubs, the ports, and the manufacturing units of these of India. So, and also, if we look at the expansion of the existing, in fact, also, there are certain things which the finance minister said in her spoke about in her budget speech, but there are things, budgetary allocations which were announced during the interim budget in February. That continues. In fact, aviation infrastructure will still be, will continue to be improved with new the existing airports being upgraded and new ones being set up. Also, the urban infrastructure in terms of the metro rail network is also being improved. So a lot of infrastructure work which is going on in the country right now. And also another thing is that we are looking at rural development. Now Prime Minister also immediately after the budget, he spoke about connecting 25,000 remote villages of the country with the mainstream of India so that the farmers in those remote places stand to benefit from the developments that are taking place. So in a way we are talking about an inclusive sort of a growth of the entire country, which again, again the entire thing about infrastructure development, taking care of the rural development, also creation of jobs. We saw a lot of jobs being created for the youth. About 10 million youth will be linked up with the corporate sector so that they get skilled in the best possible way. That is again be an enabler in the entire economic development setup. Back to you, Sakal.
Thank you very much, Amit Banerjee, for joining us and explaining it so comprehensively. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to quickly take final reactions from our panel. From CII, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII, Mr. R. Mukunandan, he continues to be with us, Vice President CII, and Mr. Deepak Shetty, Chairman CII Manufacturing Excellence in our studio. I'm going to come to Mr. Mukunandan first. So, anything in your wish list, in the industry wish list, which goes in the bucket list or to do next time? Sir, kindly unmute your...
See,
yes,
what I had been saying to everyone within CI has been that we need continuity and stability. I think fundamentally the government is focused on continuity and stability and focused on making sure it's fiscally responsible budget and moving the needle on every aspect of our transformative growth which India needs in a step-by-step manner. They've taken certain steps in this budget which were unique, which probably are the first steps in terms of employment-linked incentives. We may have to see how these incentives play out, and maybe at some point we'll have to sort of tweak them and fine-tune them, maybe every budget going forward. Otherwise, if you look at it, the triangulation of employment and skills on one hand, and then MSME and manufacturing on the other hand, infrastructure, including power and logistics on the third. I think this triangulation has come out very, very well in the budget, aided with fiscal responsibility, simplification of tax, and simplification of ease of doing business. So I think we should continue on this path. That remains our bucket list, and government is moving on that.
All right. Yes, Mr. Shetty?
I think it's too soon to talk about what more. Okay. The responsibility that the industry has is today the Honorable Finance Minister has given us a bouquet of offering. There are various initiatives in the sector. I think now it is the responsibility of the industry to ensure we utilize and we create an environment where in the true spirit of Atmanirbharta, we not only cater to the requirement of the Indian market, but we utilize it to be equally competitive in the global markets.
This is taking us there?
Yeah, and take our products out of India and be extremely competitive in the global market. I think that is a responsibility for the industry.
All right. Yes, Director General CII, final take.
No, so I think I would really look forward as we move ahead on the continued focus and implementation of decriminalization and the trust growing between the government, industry, and other stakeholders. So I think that's something that going forward one would like to see. This partnership approach, which has been mentioned by all, inviting the private sector to participate and all other sections of the society to participate, is a very big opportunity. I'd conclude by saying, yes, as we move forward to Viksit Bharat, expenditures and focuses on areas like health and education with private sector participation would be of great importance and significance.
Yes.
So,
sir, before I wrap up, I'm compelled to ask you this one. What, according to you, has been the biggest takeaway and out of the box scheme or allocation or vision that you see is reflected in this year's budget? This being Honorable Finance Minister's 7th consecutive budget, which makes her the first finance minister to table 7th budget consecutively in the Indian Parliament, and of course this being the first one under Modi 3.0. So there were a lot of, all eyes were on it. There were also speculations by the opposition. But how do you answer that question, the big takeaway?
No, I think it's very important that you said so, because this was indeed a landmark in many ways. And I think the focus on employment, the focus on MSME, the focus on productivity, all of that is just phenomenal. I would, in fact, really like to, you said it was the finance minister's 7th budget. But what's very, very critical, in her 7th budget, we have seen a very strong fundamental, reflection of strong fundamentals in the economy. The fiscal prudence and the way we have grown over the last 10 years. If you see the decadal growth, that shows an outstanding, management of the economy. So I think that is something which is key, based on which this budget has been done, where we have been able to continue with CapEx and fiscal prudence, government spend on capex and fiscal prudence, simplification. There are so many areas that we see where we have done so well as a country and in this budget.
All right. I can see that's a big thumbs up coming from the industry chambers. Thank you very much, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director, CII, Mr. R. Mukunandan, Vice President, CII and Managing Director and CEO, Tata Chemicals Limited. And thank you very much, Mr. Deepak Shetty, Chairman, CII Manufacturing Excellence Council and CEO and MD, JCB India Limited. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on DD India. Well, that's it in this edition, in this special edition on Union Budget 2024-25. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app that's on your screens. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt. And from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India.